There's a new proposal for a ceasefire with Israel on the table that Hamas is apparently weighing. Mediators say they are hoping to avert an Israeli assault on Rafah, where more than 1.4 million Palestinian civilians have fled to. It was originally the town that Israel said would be safe from an attack. Now, to be clear, the New York Times reported yesterday that Netanyahu vows to invade Rafah with or without a ceasefire deal. A UN report out this week said that if the war stopped today, it would take until at least 2040 to rebuild what has been destroyed over the last 7 months. The setback, the United Nations Development Report said, will impact generations. In the past, Hamas has said it won't sign on to a deal to release all hostages without assurances that Israel will end the onslaught in Gaza and withdraw troops. Israel has said that it won't stop fighting until Hamas is destroyed.
Meanwhile, the threat by the International Criminal Court to issue warrants for senior Israeli leaders accused of war crimes has riled up Israel. Let's listen to what Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu had to say.
Branding Israel's leaders and soldiers as war criminals will pour jet fuel on the fires of anti-Semitism, those fires that are already raging on the campuses of America and across capitals around the world. It will also be the first time that a democratic country fighting for its life according to the rules of war is itself accused of war crimes. The Israeli army, the IDF, is one of the most moral militaries in the world. It takes endless measures to prevent civilian casualties, measures that no other army takes. It does so while fighting a terrorist enemy which uses its own civilians as human shields. You know the truth.
The Middle East Eye reported that Netanyahu called hostage families to get them to lobby for the ICC to back down and not issue warrants. And Axios reported that Netanyahu issued a threat of sorts, saying he would punish the Palestinian Authority if warrants are issued. Israeli officials said, quote, "It will consider the Palestinian Authority responsible and retaliate with strong action that could lead to its collapse." Note that the Palestinian Authority is the government in control in the West Bank, where Israel has been criticized for its illegal under international law settlements and the killing of Palestinians that may amount to war crimes, according to the ICC. America has gone out of its way to attempt to shield Israel from legal accountability under the ICC. GOP House Leader Mike Johnson argued that if the ICC was challenged by the Biden administration, it could create unprecedented power to issue arrest warrants against American political leaders, American diplomats, and American military personnel, he said, assuming, of course, they are convicted of war crimes. He went on to tweet on X, "The ICC should stand down on this immediately. Israel has the right to defend itself from terrorist organizations seeking to destroy it. Note to the ICC, the real criminals are with Hamas and in Iran." State Department spokesman Vedant Patel told the press, quote, "We do not believe the ICC has jurisdiction on this." Contrast that with President Biden's position here, with the administration's reaction to an ICC warrant issued for Vladimir Putin for alleged war crimes in Ukraine, which Biden praised. Biden is now using a similar jurisdiction deflection that Putin used himself in his own self-defense when under scrutiny by the ICC for war crimes in Ukraine. This is fascinating. This amounts basically to a defense, Israel saying in response to potential ICC warrants being issued, again, for its conduct that it has been carrying out for years, even long before October 7th, including murders of Palestinian civilians in the West Bank as part of its illegal settlement expansion campaign, to say, if you issue warrants for my past criminal behavior, I'm going to do more criminal behavior in the West Bank, a kind of mafia-ish sort of a threat. And in the midst of all of that, you have the bipartisan American state really coming to the defense to shield Israel from any accountability under international law, arguing that it would create a slippery slope of sorts that can negatively affect American leaders who also commit war crimes. I think a lot of people look at that and say, well, we want there to be accountability when you litigate an illegal war like the wars that America has been involved in for the last 20 years.
Well, I'm sure there are some people who say that. I don't want American leaders to engage in illegal or unconstitutional wars. I want them held accountable when they violate the law by the U.S. government. I don't want some international organization to have authority over what the U.S. does and does not.
Well, they
now,
don't.
I understand.
We're not party to that.
Sure, and I absolutely agree with you on the hypocrisy point, on us saying that this court should, jail Putin or something like that, turning a total blind eye to the misdeeds of our own leadership and the misdeeds of Israel. So that's I think that's a fair criticism that we want the international forces sicked on our enemies, but also want license to do whatever we want at all times.
Well, I think that saying I think American leaders should be accountable, but just not to any foreign body, really raises the question: who on earth we expect to keep our own American leaders accountable? We saw this with Obama coming into office after the financial crisis, and we've seen this with every transition of power in American history. No new administration holds the prior administration accountable because they know that they are also going to engage in the same kinds of war crimes that every president does, in fact, engage in. And I don't know that that inures to the benefit of the American people to basically let them have carte blanche because we are abstractly upset about the idea of international law holding America accountable the way it still does the rest of the world.
I don't know how abstract it is to wonder, will international law meet our standards of due process, of freedom of speech? I look at what the European Union has done, what every other country does that is contrary to our policies, our robust protections for freedom of speech. I don't want to be subject to other countries'
This is about war
laws
crimes.
and
This is they're litigating whether people have committed war crimes.
Yeah, I think many Americans or many conservatives would feel it is a slippery slope to giving international global government more power to decide American inter-policies.
Yeah, I'm glad you used that language. One tweet was doing the rounds, and Adam Shabinsky, he works at NVIDIA, he tweeted out, "Mother of all slippery slopes. Today, they indict Israel for a military response to a violent invasion and mass hostage-taking. Tomorrow, it's Tony Blair and Bush for Iraq and Barack Obama for drone killings with civilian deaths."
Yeah, but never China or Iran or Russia or any of the other bad actors on the world stage. Right. Only the U.S. and Israel will be held to any kind of standard. That is
so you
the
agree with
objection
this?
we have.
Oh, that's
100%.
funny. I was bringing this up because so many people were dragging it on the internet as being laughable.
Right. There's only interest in punishing America and punishing Israel.
Well, it's the opposite. What's happening right now today, not in an imaginary fantasy land, what's happening today is that America is the one that's uniquely absolved from any accountability. Israel is uniquely absolved from the rest of the accountability, and the rest of the world in the global south is constantly has their people rounded up and hauled into jail for doing things that in scale are much less impactful than what the most powerful countries
are we
in the world
sending U.S. Marshals to go arrest Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping? I don't think so. Yeah, I know it's the simplistic worldview, the leftist worldview, that only the U.S. and only the Israel are at fault for anything that goes wrong in the world, and there are no bad actors on the global stage, and they're just reacting to bad things we've done, and not us.
Okay.
We are the prime movers, and
Stick
there's
around,
no...
more Rising coming up after this. I don't